Anne Ruston, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Can I start by asking, why are unemployment benefits in Australia set below the poverty line?
Well, I mean, obviously the first thing you'd have to establish is what the actual measure of poverty is. But what we try and do in Australia when it comes to setting our working age payments is to clearly balance a whole heap of factors, including making sure that we provide support for people who are looking for work. I mean, it's a safety net, it's not a wage replacement. But equally, we have a number of other things that we put into our system in Australia to make sure that we support people in other ways, whether it be by other supplements, whether it be through things like universal healthcare and universal education. So you can't compare Australia's working age payment system with those of countries overseas because they are quite different.
I'm going from the OECD definition of the poverty line, which says that it's half the median household income of a total population. So in Australia, that's defined as $457 per week, and a single person on JobSeeker receives a little over $300 per week. The government's clearly just recently considered this issue in detail, and so I'm just asking why we think that the rate of unemployment benefits ensures that people have to live in poverty.
Well, you've just come up with one definition, but as I said,
it's the OECD is what I quoted.
There are a number of different factors that play into our working payment system. As I said, not the least of which is the fact that you cannot compare Australia's system with those overseas. And I was also going to suggest that there are a number of other things that in our system in totality. As I said, you know, we have universal healthcare, we have universal education, and also Australia's welfare system, our unemployment benefits. They're a non-contributory system, and they are there for the duration of people's need for them.
One of the things that the government's going to introduce is a hotline where if an employer offers somebody a job and the person offered the job turns it down, the employer can then dob them in. Shouldn't it be a fundamental right for Australians that you can turn down a job? There are a lot of valid reasons why you might think a job is not suitable.
Look, that is absolutely correct, Leigh, and there are a number of reasons why somebody would have a valid reason to turn down a job.
If they said, for example, that they didn't like the boss, they thought they're a bit sleazy, something like that, is that considered a valid reason?
Well, look, certainly there is an element of requirement that everybody has the right to feel safe in the workplace. But I also think that Australians are more than happy to support people with payments when they find themselves out of work. But I think equally there's an expectation if you are able to undertake the job, and there's no reason why you can't. I think Australians expect that people will take up that job.
A single person on JobSeeker will receive a little over $300 a week to live on, as I mentioned before. A politician receives more than $280 per day in travel allowance when they're in Canberra on top of their salary. Why is that fair?
Well, as you would be well aware, the rate of payment that we are talking about is the base rate, and in a number of areas there are supplements, there are allowances, and there are other things that people have available to them because Australia's system.
Sorry to interrupt you, Minister, but I mean, just for the average Australian watching, a politician gets $280 a day in travel allowance. Someone on JobSeeker has to live off $300 a week. Why is that fair?
Well, certainly the most important thing that we can do, as I said, this is a safety net. It's about supporting people while they're looking for work. But the most important thing that we as a government can do now that the pandemic is hopefully largely behind us and the economy is recovering, is we've got to focus on getting jobs so that every Australian can have a job and they can have the benefits that are associated with having a job and the income that goes with it.
Don't you want to tackle my question head on?
Well, I think I am tackling your question head on, Leigh, and that is that the most important thing that we can do is to provide people with access to jobs. So we need to make sure the economy is providing those jobs, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Is that why you say that you deserve the $280 a day in travel allowance?
Look, I mean, this is not an issue about working Australians. This is an issue about taxpayers supporting Australians who find themselves out of work to support them back into work, because we all know that people who are unemployed have worse life outcomes than people who are employed. And so the most important thing that we can do is to focus on making sure that those jobs are there so people can have the kind of life outcomes that you and I enjoy, Leigh.
Regarding the Brittany Higgins matter, how would you describe the way it was handled by the Defence Minister, Linda Reynolds?
Well, I mean, obviously there's been a lot of commentary around this particular matter. I think Linda has explained herself very clearly about what she knew and what she didn't know and when she knew what she knew. But, you know, the one thing that is so important, I think Linda's demonstrated this, and that is that, that Ms Higgins had requested that her privacy be maintained, and I think that everything that Linda's said that she's done during that period was to respect Ms Higgins' privacy.
So you don't have any problems with how your colleague handled that?
Well, the information that I have before me, I have no issue with how it's been handled. But I would say, Leigh, you cannot underestimate, you know, the pain and suffering that Ms Higgins and a number of other people, whether it be in this workplace or any workplace, it is absolutely paramount. As us, as employers, and I take my role very seriously as an employer, and I'm in a privileged position as a politician to set an example that we not only have to make sure that people are safe in the workplace, we need to make sure that they feel safe in the workplace. So I think it is a very, very important issue, and I welcome the findings of the inquiries that are going to be undertaken both independently and internally, because we always should strive to do better, because if Ms Higgins didn't think she was supported, then we have to address that issue. You
point out that as a minister you take your role as a boss very seriously. The Defence Minister was aware of what happened to Brittany Higgins, and yet she didn't take steps to inform the Prime Minister. As a minister, if you were in that position as a boss, would you keep a matter like that from the Prime Minister?
Well, look, every situation I think is you have to assess on its merits, but of course the most important thing, Leigh, the most important thing that I think that nobody has disputed is that it was Miss Higgins, it was her story, it was her agency that needed to be protected.
But what I'm trying to get a handle on...
Sure,
sure, I understand that. But what I'm trying to get a handle on is, you know, you as a minister and the way the government operates, if an alleged serious crime took place in your office at Parliament House, as a minister, would you consider it your obligation to tell the Prime Minister?
I would consider it my obligation if a crime had taken place first and foremost to make sure that the necessary authorities were advised, and in this case the Australian Federal Police were the obvious authority. But look, I don't know all of the circumstances.
The Prime Minister's sort of the ultimate authority, isn't he?
Well, not in a situation of a crime. I mean, if a crime's committed, obviously the police are sovereign in this respect, and the police would be the appropriate place. Are you seriously
saying if serious crime was committed in your office in Parliament House that you wouldn't think that you were obliged to tell the Prime Minister?
Look, Leigh, I'm not going to go into hypotheticals. I don't know the circumstances that turned around the particular issue you're talking about in relation to Ms Higgins, and so I don't want to go into hypotheticals of what would happen in my office. All I can say is the safety and the feeling of safety of my staff is something that I take very, very seriously. I don't underestimate, the pain and suffering that Ms Higgins has gone through, and I think it is incumbent on us all to make sure that we are absolutely alive to the issue of making sure that our staff feel comfortable at work.
Anne Ruston, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Leigh.
Hi, I'm Leigh Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.